So, you all have the copy and also the book of Al-Malam and Al-Immat Al-Alam. I want to go through the last point, the last paragraph, when he mentioned the 6 reasons for this agreement. This one here. The causes of conflict of opinion by Janus. Here we have the author mentioning 6 reasons for this agreement.
The causes of conflict of opinion by Janus are 6.
By Janus. If you have the one that was forwarded, if you have it online, the last paragraph. The last paragraph. Okay.
First is
vacillation, the vacillation
of the words between these 4 modes. That is between the general word meant as a particular word or the particular word implying generally.
As I told you, when Allah Azza wa Jal says فَلَا تَقُلْ لَهُمَا أُفٍّ, is only the word intended, or anything that harms, bothers the parents is also prohibited. So that's a particular, but what is intended is what? General. Or the opposite, the general, but what is intended is what? Particular. خُذْ مِنْ أَمْوَالِهِمْ صَدَقَةً. So that's number 1. Okay.
Or a general word implying generality. Or a particular word intending a particular meaning. Or there is present or absent an indirect indication of the communication. The second cause is the equivocality in words.
The equivocality is what we talked about. ثلاثة قروء. Is it purification or menstruation? Okay. The third
cause lies in the grammatical structure.
Grammatical structure, what does that mean? Okay, it's better to show you again. I will use a very common ayah. Hopefully you all know it because it talks about the pillars of wudu. Ayah number 6 of Surah 5, Surah Al-Ma'idah. يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا إِذَا قُمْتُمْ إِلَى الصَّلَاةِ فَاغْسِلُوا. The command, فَاغْسِلُوا وُجُوهَكُمْ وُجُوهَكُمْ وَأَيْدِيَكُمْ إِلَى الْمَرَافِقِ وَامْسَحُوا. So now the command, the first command, فَاغْسِلُوا. فَاغْسِلُوا means what? Wash. Very good. وَامْسَحُوا means what? Wipe. وَامْسَحُوا what? بِرُؤُوسِكُمْ وَأَرْجُلَكُمْ. That's the whole point. وَأَرْجُلَ. Did Allah Azza wa Jal say وَأَرْجُلَكُمْ or وَأَرْجُلِكُمْ? If you read or you understand the basic Arabic, وُجُوهَكُمْ أَيْدِيَكُمْ رُؤُوسِكُمْ أَرْجُلَكُمْ. You see what happened? Fatha, fatha, kasra, and then fatha. In Arabic, this means what? All those with fatha, they are together. Kasra, that's alone. But here is the question. If they are together, isn't it easier to say فَاغْسِلُوا وُجُوهَكُمْ وَأَيْدِيَكُمْ وَأَرْجُلَكُمْ وَامْسَحُوا بِرُؤُوسِكُمْ? That's easier and better in the context. But Allah Azza wa Jal said, wash your faces, your hands to the elbows, wipe your heads, wash your feet. Why you say wash your faces, your hands, wipe, and then wash again? To show the obligation of the order. The order. If this was kasra, then it would mean what? Wash or wipe? Wipe. And actually, there is a qira'ah with wipe. وَامْسَحُوا بِرُؤُوسِكُمْ وَأَرْجُلِكُمْ. It's authentic qira'ah. So now, what do? We wipe our feet or we wash? Scholars said, now this is agreement in all opinions. The wipe indicates مسح على الخفين, while the washing is the washing of the feet. So you see one articulation point. Just the difference between fatha and kasra, what does it do? Changes the whole meaning. From washing to what? To wiping. That's just one example of what? Grammatical structure. Okay.
The first is the ability of the word to indicate its literal meaning and allegorical or metaphorical sense resulting from an implied omission or addition or from the reversal of the normal order of the sentence by advancing or deferring a word from its legitimate place. Or it may be the vacillation of the word between its actual application and the figurative meaning.
Yes. When you say a word, like I called you 100 times, did you really call 100 times? So that's used, we call it what? Used what? Metaphorically, figuratively. I called you many times. So based on that, the understanding differs. And that's what we call ta'wil. Diverting the meaning from its original to a metaphorical meaning, for a reason, for an evidence. Also, ta'wil came in the Quran, like in the ayah 100 of Surah Yusuf, Surah 12, وَقَالَ يَا أَبَتِ هَذَا تَأْوِيلُ رُؤْيَاي. Here, what Yusuf alayhi salam meant by ta'wil is the interpretation. This is the meaning of my dream, or something else. Did Yusuf or didn't he know the meaning of his dream? Yes or no? What do you think from your understanding of Surah Yusuf? Yusuf alayhi salam used to interpret the dreams to people. He actually was able to get out of prison because he was able to interpret the dream of the king. And he wouldn't know his own dream. Yes or no? Then why he said at ayah 100, هَذَا تَأْوِيلُ رُؤْيَاي? It doesn't mean the explanation. It means this is the reality. هَذَا تَأْوِيلُ رُؤْيَاي. And that's what Allah Azza wa Jal said in Surah Al-An'am at the end of the surah. هَلْ يَنْتَظِرُونَ إِلَّا تَأْوِيلَهُ. Surah Al-A'raf. يَوْمَ يَأْتِي تَأْوِيلُهُ يَقُولُ الَّذِينَ نَسُوهُ مِنْ قَبْلِ قَدْ جَاءَتْ رُسُلُ رَبِّنَا بِالْحَقِّ. What are they waiting, the kuffar, to believe in the day of judgment? Are they waiting the happening of it? When it happens, it will be too late. So the point here is that sometimes the word, just as it has more than one meaning, purification, menstruation, but also it could have literal and figurative, metaphorical meaning. Habr in Islam, or Hibr, two words, the ocean of knowledge. Bahr also. Al-Asad, the lion. It could mean the animal, or it could mean the courageous man. So the usage here depends. When Allah Azza wa Jal said, وَاسْأَلِ الْقَرْيَةَ الَّتِي كُنَّا فِيهَا. Ask the village. What do you ask? You ask the houses, the walls. وَالْعِيرَ الَّتِي أَقْبَلْنَا فِيهَا. And ask the camels, the caravan. You talk to the camels? You can, but what will people say? Or you ask the people who are above the camels. So why Allah Azza wa Jal didn't say that? This is what we call majaz, metaphor. Okay.
The fifth cause is the occasional use of the word in its absolute or unqualified meaning, or in a qualified sense, like the unqualified use on occasions of the word slave in manumission,
Yeah.
and then qualifying it with faith at other times.
فَتَحْرِيرُ رَقَبَةٍ مِنْ قَبْلِ أَن يَتَمَاسَّ. This is what Allah Azza wa Jal said in Ayah 4 of Surah 58, Surah Al-Mujadila. The penalty for dhihar, for using a word to abuse the wife, is what? Manumitting or freeing a slave. That's what we call mutlaq, absolute. In Ayah 92 of Surah An-Nisa. In Surah An-Nisa, when Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned the penalty for killing by mistake, فَتَحْرِيرُ رَقَبَةٍ مُؤْمِنَةٍ. مؤمنة. Here it's muqayyad, qualified. So do we carry the absolute over the qualified, and we say, as Allah Azza wa Jal stipulated that freeing the slave should be believing slave, in the killing by mistake it also has to be in the penalty for dhihar? Or the example here, فَاغْسِلُوا وُجُوهَكُمْ وَأَيْدِيَكُمْ إِلَى الْمَرَافِقِ. Allah Azza wa Jal stipulated washing the hands to what? To the elbows. But when it came ayatul tayammum in Surah An-Nisa, فَامْسَحُوا بِوُجُوهِكُمْ وَأَيْدِيكُمْ مِنْهُ. Did Allah Azza wa Jal stipulate the location, or just said the hand? So here we say it is absolute. Here it is qualified. So do we say, as in the wudu, it is a must to wash to the elbows, in the tayammum it is a must to wipe to the elbow? Yes or no? According to the Shafi'i school of thought, yes. According to other scholars, no. Because they are two different things. Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah said, this is wudu and this is an alternative for wudu, so it should be the same. That's where scholars differ. If the ruling is different, then you don't have to carry the qualified over the absolute. Like what? Like the same hand in the penalty for theft. وَالسَّارِقُ وَالسَّارِقَةُ فَقَطَعُوا أَيْدِيَهُمَا. Cut off their hands. From where? From the wrist, or from the elbow, or from the shoulder? The ayah didn't say. So do we say, because Allah Azza wa Jal stipulated it is to the elbow, we cut off the hand of the thief from the elbow? No. Here scholars said, because the ruling is different. It's the obligation of washing and the punishment for theft. They are different. But in tayammum, there is similarity, but the majority of scholars said no. According to Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah, said yes, and that's why we have two opinions. That's one reason of the disagreement. Carrying حمل المطلق على المقيد. That's what we say. Okay? Sometimes the ayah comes general in its absolute. Like when I tell you, get me a book, any book, and you bring me a book. Oh, no. You told me any book. Yeah, but not this one. Get me a science book. Now this became what? Qualified, muqayyad. Okay.
The sixth cause is the conflict between two texts in all kinds of words from which the law derives the rulings.
This is on its own is an entire chapter. تعارض الأدلة. We call it the conflict of evidence. Because all what we talked about is when there is an evidence, or there is the absence of the evidence, or there is forgetfulness of the evidence. But what if there is an evidence here, and then there is another evidence there? Like what? Like the obligation of performing wudu from touching the private part. من مس ذكره فليتوضأ. This is what the Prophet ﷺ said. It is obligatory to what? To make wudu. Another hadith says, أنا أتوضأ إذا مس أحدنا ذكره. What did the Prophet ﷺ say? لا. No. هو بضعة منك. It's part of you. You touch part of you, you touch your hand, you touch your leg, you don't make wudu. These are two narrations. Oh, one of them must be weak. No, both of them are authentic. What do? Here, scholars, they have specific method. First, they look at the possibility of reconciliation. How reconciliation? It could be said in more than one occasion. Like what? Do not face the Qibla or turn your back to the Qibla when you are relieving yourself. You're answering the call of nature. لا تستقبلوا القبلة ولا تستدبروها ببول أو غائط. This is what the Prophet ﷺ said. Ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma says, I climbed over the roof of the house of my sister Hafsa, and I saw the Prophet ﷺ turning his back to the Qibla, relieving himself. What do? Scholars have 4 opinions here. Based on what? Because the Prophet ﷺ said one thing, but then he did another thing. So some of them said, you follow what the Prophet ﷺ said, and you follow what the Prophet ﷺ did. So you do not face the Qibla, but turning your back to the Qibla is okay, because that's what the Prophet ﷺ did. Others said no, because usually what is stronger, the saying or the action? The saying. Always what the Prophet ﷺ says is general, but what he does could be for a certain reason. So they said for us, the Prophet ﷺ has exceptions, just like he has many exceptions. So for him, he's allowed to do this. Why? He's the messenger of Allah. Just like when he sleeps, his sleepness does not break his wudu. So the same thing, he's allowed to turn his back to the Qibla. Unlike us, we are prohibited from. So other people said that. Then there is an opinion. In the buildings, you don't have to follow this because there are walls, as the Prophet ﷺ did. But when the Prophet ﷺ said that, then it is in the open area. When you are alone in the desert or in open area, you do not turn your back or face the Qibla. So as you see, there is conflict. Can we reconcile? If there is a way, always it's better to reconcile. And there are many examples. Do you raise your voice? Do you say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim when you start the prayer with Surah Al-Fatiha or no? Yes or no? According to Imam Malik, Imam Abu Hanifa and Imam Ahmad, no. Because Anas radiallahu anhu said, صليت خلف النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم وأبو بكر وعمر فكانوا يستفتحون القراءة بي الحمد لله رب العالمين. That's the opinion of the majority. According to Imam Shafi rahimahullah, yes. You start with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim is part of Al-Fatiha. And reading Al-Fatiha is a pillar. Since Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim is part of Al-Fatiha, you don't read it, then your entire prayer is invalid. There is difference of opinion here. So what do? Can you reconcile? Yes. I'm going to read it, but I don't have to raise my voice with it. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Did I read it? Yes. Did I raise my voice? No. So I was able to reconcile. Always, if you can reconcile, it is better. But what if you cannot? Like the example of touching. One hadith says it doesn't invalidate wudu. Another hadith says it doesn't. How can you reconcile? Does it or doesn't? Actually, some scholars did reconcile. They said if it was by accident, you touched it by accident, it doesn't invalidate wudu. But deliberately, it does. Others said over clothes, it doesn't. But directly, it does. Then what do if we cannot reconcile? Then we have to use what we say, maslak at-tarjih, the method of favoring one evidence over the other. How? Which one is stronger, more authentic? Sometimes that's the case. One hadith is authentic, another hadith is not. So you don't have to bother with the hadith that is not authentic. It's not authentic, that's it. But if both are authentic, here in this case, it could be one hadith before and one hadith is after. And this is what we call abrogation. You know what abrogation means? نسخ. ما ننسخ من آية أو ننسها نأتي بخير منها أو مثلها ألم تعلم أن الله على كل شيء قدير. آية 106 of Surah Al-Baqarah. Nasakh, abrogation. Just like in the Quran, there is also abrogation in what? In the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. And here in this incident of touching the private part, they said, إِنَّمَا هُوَ بَضْعَةٌ مِنْكَ, it's part of you. This was before migration. After migration, the Prophet ﷺ said, you have to perform wudu because rulings were established. So if you know the history, you use this method of tarjih, favoring one over the other. So ta'arud al-adillah, the conflict of evidence. Sometimes you have ayah and hadith. Like ayah 23 of Surah An-Nisa, Surah number 4. حرمت عليكم أمهاتكم وبناتكم وأخواتكم وعماتكم Allah Azza wa Jal detailed the prohibited women to marry. At the end of the ayah, Allah Azza wa Jal said, وَأَن تَجْمَعُوا بَيْنَ الْأُخْتَيْنِ, and to have two sisters at the same time. إِلَّا مَا قَدْ سَلَفَ إِنَّ اللَّهَ كَانَ غَفُورًا رَحِيمًا. Allah Azza wa Jal detailed the prohibited women to marry. Yes or no? Okay. Someone said, I'm not going to marry two sisters. I'm marrying a woman and her relative. She's very beautiful, she's very good. So why not increase the barakah, increase the good? So have one and the other one also plus its bonus. And especially they are close in age. A woman and her aunt. Her aunt, yes. Don't say aunt old. No, they are only 1 year apart. Is that permissible or no? Yes or no? You're married? That's why you say it sounds okay.
If your wife consents.
Astaghfirullah. You heard what he said?
No.
Good, better. You're also not married, right? Yeah. Poor guys. I feel sorry for you. But alhamdulillah, at the same time, I'm happy for you. You have the life ahead of you. The ayah, did it mention anything about a woman and her relative? Since Allah Azza wa Jal detailed the prohibited woman, then this should be what? Allowed. But we have an authentic hadith from the Prophet ﷺ, both in Al-Bukhari and Muslim. لا يجمع بين المرأة وعمتها ولا بين المرأة وخالتها. You cannot marry at the same time a woman and her paternal or maternal aunt. What do? According to the Hanafi school of thought, they didn't apply the hadith. It's in Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. They didn't apply it. They said Allah Azza wa Jal detailed the ayah, the prohibited woman in the ayah. This is addition. Addition can mean only abrogation. We cannot abrogate the ayah with a hadith. According to the majority of scholars, this hadith qualifies the ayah, adds to the ayah. The sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, the job of the Prophet ﷺ to explain the Quran. Part of the explanation of the Quran is to add to it. There is no conflict here. So that's why, according to Imam Malik, Imam Shafi, and Imam Ahmad, they said it is prohibited. You cannot marry a woman and her paternal or maternal aunt. That's the reason of disagreement. Is this clear? Okay, so with this, we finish the reasons of disagreement, and we covered all the 10 points that were mentioned in the book. So, what time is it? I forgot. Oh, mashallah, we didn't even reach 6 o'clock. Okay, so, Jazakallah khair. You can stay sitting here if you like it. So, yeah, he's enjoying this. Any questions? I've come across all the points in the book. So, yes.
Regarding choosing an opinion.
Choosing an opinion.
Yeah, so, what level should our knowledge be? so that we can actually make that choice? Can a layman do that?
It's a good question. You have to know where you are. Are you a layman or you are an eligible person? Because your obligation is to ask. That's what Allah Azza wa Jal said. فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Ask the people of knowledge if you don't know. If you do not know, asking would be sufficient. Whatever he answered you. But even that, there are some exceptions. Like scholars say, مَا هُوَ مَعْلُومٌ مِنَ الدِّينِ بِالضَّرُورَةِ. What is by necessity should be known by any Muslim. Like you say, I asked someone and he told me I only have to pray 3 times a day. No, this will not help you. Or they told me I can eat riba. No, because Allah Azza wa Jal specifically in the Quran said, وَأَحَلَّ اللَّهُ الْبَيْعَ وَحَرَّمَ الرِّبَى. So someone prohibits what Allah Azza wa Jal clearly allowed, you cannot do that. Other than that, what do? The vast majority of people, it's sufficient for them to follow an opinion. To the dot, yes. Everything, yes. Why? Because it's sufficient for you. But what if I can? If you can, then that's a different story. In certain issues, now you don't have to be an absolute scholar. But in one issue, you've studied that issue very well, you've researched it. You can follow an opinion based on the evidence. Because at the end of the day, Allah Azza wa Jal will ask you, why did you do this? You have to answer to Allah Azza wa Jal, I did it because you said this. We don't have in Islam like what Christianity has, where they have a hierarchy. You just go to the priest and he forgives you or gives you salvation. No. They tell you no one can understand the book. No, you can. If you have the ability, you have the tools, you can. So based on where you stand, the vast majority of people, the general masses of people, the layman, they just ask. Following an opinion entirely, that's permissible. But then when you are knowing and you know there is an evidence and you don't see any valid opposition to it, then you cannot leave it. That's what Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah said. أجمع الناس. People unanimously agreed. على أنه من استبانت له سنة رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. People unanimously agreed that whoever was sure of the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, you knew this is the sunnah, لم يكن له أن يدعها لقول أحد كائنا من كان. He would not have the option to leave it for the opinion of anyone, whoever be it, whoever may it be. As long as you know that this is the sunnah, that's it. Your obligation is to follow it. So it depends.
So about the example you just gave about marrying the wife's aunt, since we know that there is a hadith and 3 out of the 4 scholars said cannot, someone will cannot use that one scholar on the day of judgment to as an opinion.
Yes, you cannot say just, you can try, good luck with that. Yes.
I just want to ask you, there is a hadith, Imam Ahmad رواه, he said, استفتي قلبك وين تكون. So what I understand from you right now is, if I have different opinion from different scholars, so I kind of like the easier one, or like what is my heart is like.
When you say the easier one, is that a sufficient answer in front of Allah Azza wa Jal? I took that because this is the easier one.
No.
Just because it is the easier one doesn't mean it is the right one. Istafti qalbak, I ask my heart, yes, but it doesn't work all the time. You cannot take that and forget other evidences. This is important. When there is an evidence, it has to be taken within the context. Like, man salla al-asra dakhala al-jannah. This is an authentic hadith from the Prophet ﷺ. Whoever prayed Asr will enter Jannah. So someone came and said, I will only pray Asr. I don't have to pray other prayers. The Prophet ﷺ said that you will enter Jannah. No, you have to pray other obligatory prayers. So yes, istafti qalbak, but then I don't need to ask anyone. I don't need to read any book. I just ask my heart. No, you have to understand it within the context. Because even though sometimes someone tells you something, you still find it in your heart. So here, you have to be careful. That's what it means.
No, what I mean is that, like I'm a Shafi'i, So, for example, if we go to Umrah
Mhm.
and if there is like any girl touch me or I touch any girl like mistakenly, so then I have to do another wudu.
Yes. You feel that this is the right opinion?
I think nowadays it's really hard to like fall about
Yes. So based on that, this particular case, you don't have to follow the opinion of Imam Shafi'i. Why? Just because it is the easier? Not just because it is the easier. It's almost impossible to follow it.
Yes, exactly.
So in this case, thank you. Yeah.
It's like I go for another Imam, right?
Yeah. You came late because I mentioned this example.
Oh, okay.
You see now you. Any other questions? Yes. No, it's not all right. Yeah.
It's wajib upon a layman to just stick to a mazhab because he doesn't have the means to choose.
Yes. What did Allah Azza wa Jal say? I answered that question earlier. فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. You ask, and that's sufficient for you.
So I to say that it's wajib upon a layman to stick to one mazhab because he doesn't have the means to choose.
If a layman, what would he do? If you say it's not wajib, what's his option? To choose? If he doesn't know, he cannot choose, so he follows. But following doesn't mean he has to follow one opinion. You ask one sheikh one time about a case because you're a layman. Then in another case, you felt that this one has more knowledge. Can you ask him, or you say, because I asked the first one, I have to stick to him? No, you can ask. Yes.
So how do we differentiate between like fatwa shopping and
The intention. What is the intention? Allah knows what is your intention. You're looking for the easiest, for just the way out, because this is what happens. Sometimes people already have an opinion and they are looking for someone to give them what they want. No, you have to be very, very objective, neutral, and you ask, and whatever is the answer, you follow it. Yes.
I have questions regarding the
Questions?
the differences between madhab.
Yeah.
They're very contrast. I mean, like the halal and haram. So,
Not always, no. No, like it's sometimes raising the hands to the shoulders, then to the earlobe. This is not
for example, like
opposite.
marriage of auntie.
Yeah,
So this is very
few cases. These are not a lot. What's your point? What's your question?
So when this very contrast, I mean, like this is haram and this is halal.
Yeah.
So the other guy will see that this commit sins, and this, but for their perspective, they are not commit sins.
Yes. And that's why you cannot use the actions of others. Because Allah Azza wa Jal said, وَكُلُّهُمْ آتِيهِ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ فَرْدًا. All of them will stand before Allah alone. Allah will ask you. It's just like if you're saying everyone is dealing with riba. It doesn't matter. You are responsible for yourself. يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا عَلَيْكُمْ أَنفُسَكُمْ لَا يَضُرُّكُمْ مَنْ ضَلَّ إِذَا اهْتَدَيْتُمْ in Surah Al-Ma'idah, Ayah 105. All you who believe, you are obligated to do what you are supposed to do. You don't look for what others have done. It won't harm you. So if you say, oh, everyone is doing it, that's not sufficient. But for him, he could be excused. Could be excused. And this happened a lot at the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The example of Adi bin Hatim radiallahu anhu, when he used the literal black thread and white thread. He kept eating and drinking until it was daytime. Is this allowed or prohibited? That's prohibited. Someone broke his fast during the day of Ramadan. That's normal or that's a major sin? Did the Prophet ﷺ tell him, what did you do? You are a sinner. No. Actually, the Prophet ﷺ laughed. Why? The intention. Again, Adi radiallahu anhu didn't know. So two people, yes, you're right. One of them would be doing something. The other one would see it as it is haram, but he believes it's okay. Again, you have to prepare the answer to Allah, not to people, to Allah Azza wa Jal. Yes.
We ask that we follow and follow the opinions that we think might the right one or might be the closest to the believer. They do our own ijtihad.
Doing your own ijtihad will be allowed when you are qualified. When you are qualified. If you're not qualified, no. And the example when, again, at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, when a man was injured in his head, and he wanted to do tayammum, he was afraid to perform ghusl. And people told him, no, you have to do ghusl. They answered without knowledge. Oh, anyone, and unfortunately nowadays, this is what happens with Islam. Everyone is becoming an expert. Everyone knows. If you practice medicine without license, you open a clinic, what will happen? What will authorities do? They will welcome you and they give you a salary, or they will put you in prison. Well, how do you know? There are, again, this is why there are subjects like usul al-fiqh, principles of jurisprudence, where scholars lay down the essence of ijtihad, when you can search for the right opinion.
So if the scholars, they differ, which one
Which one do you choose? Which one you believe is closer to the truth? Again, depending on who you are. Do you have the ability to choose? Or you are a layman? If you are a layman, I said that this is the third time. It is sufficient for you to follow someone knowledgeable. Okay? No one can tell you you are licensed. Now, scholars, they did in the past, like,
what they mean is that in the media, there is a lot of people, they go and talk about the deen, and then they give a fatwa, but then they are, some of them, they're people that.
unfortunately, yes, only in Islam. No one gives fatwa in engineering without license, or medicine without license. But in Islam, everyone is.
But why they actually when they especially for Muslims in the media, they say if that person is not qualified,
Yeah.
okay, we should be if he's not so he doesn't have like a license or investment for in the media, then you have to know this is
Not just, the media is not the right place to have license or not to have license, but to be famous. Some people don't have even the basics. They never studied any Islamic field, and still they are giving fatwas. So obviously they are not qualified. As I said, this. طيب وبعدين يعني خلص ما. Once you finish, we can. Scholars detailed exactly who is the one able to give fatwa, who's the one like a student of knowledge, and who's the one who's a layman. Everything is laid down. Even within the madhab, they say this is ahlul tarjih, the people who can favor the opinion of the imam within the school of thought. Ahlul takhrij, people who can extract the opinion of the imam even after his death. The imam died. Like Imam Shafi rahimahullah, at his time, was there heroin or cocaine? Or no, but someone can tell you this is the opinion of Imam Shafi'i. How? Based on what he said. This is what, they are called people of Ahlul. All of that is detailed in Usul al-Fiqh. Yes?
So for the people who grow up practicing a certain method, and then they went to another country who follow another method. So there's a lot of differences between what they can do.
They always can go fishing. As I said, you have to answer to Allah Azza wa Jal. Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah, he lived first in Iraq, Tuba. Then he moved to Egypt. When he moved to Egypt, what did he do? He changed his school of thought. And that's why in the Shafi'i school of thought, there is al-madhab al-qadim, the old opinion. And then al-jadid, the new opinion. Based on what? Based on what he see from people, what he saw from people. And that shows the flexibility in Islam. He didn't say about what is halal, it became haram. But there is huge area, very large area of ijtihad. That's where he changed his opinion. So the same thing, in the things that are up to ijtihad, I gave the example before. Here, when I lead the prayer, people are used to having dua al-qunut. I don't believe that it is the sunnah, but I do it. Why? No need to change the custom of people just because of what I believe. The prayer is valid anyways. Yeah. Yes. Anything else? Yes.
Could we follow a mazhab for a certain matters, but if other matters we follow another matters?
Depending, just because it's easier, more convenient, or because you believe it's closer to the truth.
I've heard people say.
You heard. A lot of people hear a lot of things.
Someone who follows, like for example, someone following Sheikh Albani in his opinions, they are called like someone who doesn't have a knowledge in a condescending way. It's like, I mean, how do we understand that?
I don't know. They can say whatever they want.
It's like that person is not following any mother, he's just following Sheikh Albani's opinion, right?
So he's following the madhab of Albani. So sometimes this is what happens. You believe that you are leaving everyone to follow the sunnah, but you're doing worse than what are other people doing and what you are criticizing them for. If you have the option, would you choose Albani over Imam Malik, for instance, or Imam Shafi'i?
Isn't the opinion of Sheikh Albani is from the opinions of the Imams as well? It's not always contradictory. It's also sometimes it's most of the time it's similar as well.
Good. Why do we need it if you have the opinion of the Imam? Okay.
Regarding this, it's similar to the brother's question. So, some of the ulama muhaddathin, they basically made tarjih from the fiqh school. So, following such thing, what's your take on that?
Nothing. It could be done with the proper methods. Why not? No one can restrict the right to himself, says, I am right and everyone else is wrong. I believe what I'm doing is right. You are entitled to that. You cannot force me to follow this. That's exactly what Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah said. قَوْلُنَا صَوَابٌ يَحْتَمِلُ الْخَطَأ. What I believe is the right thing. That's why I believe it. But there is a possibility it's wrong. وَقَوْلُ غَيْرِنَا خَطَأ يَحْتَمِلُ الصَّوَابُ. And whatever the other is saying is wrong. That's why I don't adopt it. But there is a possibility that it would be right. This is always how you have to approach things. Yes.
Which one is the best book to study
Usul al-Fiqh, a lot of books. Al-Muyassar fi Usul al-Fiqh, this is in Arabic. If you want, I can give you the translated English abridged version. It's very simple, very easy. It's 46 pages only, summarizing. You want that? Let me see. If I'm in the mood, I will forward it. Remind me. I will forward it to you. Then you can forward it to them. Okay. That's one book. Dr. Wahb al-Zuhaili rahmatullah alayhi also wrote 2 volumes, but this one Al-Muyassar very good. Al-Risala for Imam Shafi'i, if you want the classical work that's translated to English. You see how Imam Shafi'i started, what's his approach, but that's classical way. Sometimes it is difficult to follow that. So for a beginner level or even intermediate level, it would be easier to Start with the most recent ones. Okay.
How can a student of knowledge develop and maintain maintain a strong sense of ethics and character while pursuing knowledge such as fiqh?
I thought this would not need to be asked. Knowing something will not be established if you don't practice it. You look at all scholars, almost all of them, they didn't separate between theory and practice. That's why they were great scholars, because they applied. Actually, they did more than what they taught or said. Unlike nowadays, I'm good at speaking for hours, but then alone, Allah knows what I'm doing. They used to pray alone. They didn't care about people. Oh, watch me. Look, I'm sharing that on social media. How many? No. Ibadah. During the night. Asking Allah Azza wa Jal. This is what will stabilize your knowledge and guarantee that you will continue, inshallah. وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَيُعَلِّمُكُمُ اللَّهُ. Yes, can I help you? Hello? You are in the right place? You had class. And this is also class. So why you favor that over this? I'm offended. We finished already, so لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. They are from the volunteers also? Astaghfirullah. Okay. Jazakumullahu khairan. See you inshallah in future events. Any more questions? Final question.
So regarding the opinions of the Imam and the development of the Mazahib, how does developing the mashhur or the mu'tamad of the madhab come up? Because that comes much later.
Yes,
so
again, once the opinions are documented and studied, analyzed, then from within the school of thought, they would agree that this is what the Imam meant, or this is something. And usually in every school of thought, they have one Imam or one book. They say this is the adopted one. Like in Imam Ahmad, for instance, especially Imam Ahmad, it's very difficult to follow his opinion because he himself usually, for one case, he has 2 or 3. That's why many scholars consider Imam Ahmad muhaddith, not faqih. But a lot of books in fiqh of Imam Ahmad. So they said Al-Insaf for Imam al-Mardawi, that's Al-Mu'tamad. For Imam al-Shafi'i, Imam al-Nawawi, they call him Muhaqqiq al-Madhab. He came and he verified. So you follow what Imam al-Nawawi in his book Al-Minhaj, and then Al-Majmu', that's Al-Mu'tamad. So in every school of thought, usually you have someone.
So the Mu'tamad comes about at a certain time, right?
It doesn't matter when, but it just happens. And it's well known which one to follow.
Even if, for example, you have different strands within the madhab.
Yeah.
So how do they come to agree to one?
How do they agree? It doesn't matter. They did agree. You want to follow, you can follow. This is al-mu'tamad. As I said, at the end of the day, your obligation is not to follow this one or that one. Allah will ask you, you did this because of what? Why you did it? That's what you're supposed to answer Allah Azza wa Jal.
Just to follow up also, what exactly does an opinion being mu'tamad mean, implication-wise? If we say the Imam has a few opinions, but this one is the mu'tamad.
Yes, the correct one. This is, when you say this is the opinion of Imam al-Shafi'i, that's what his school of thought. Even though he has a different opinion.
Personally.
Yeah.
So this means this is what Imam Shafi would have said if he was alive today. Is that what it means?
His opinion, yes, his school of thought, yes.
Is it true that it's like the Imam would have like first howl and the second howl?
Not always. Sometimes, not always. He had school old opinion and new opinion, yes, but not always. Like Imam Malik didn't have that. But because Imam Shafi'i moved from one country to another, he did have that. Not just that. In Hanafi school of thought, the same thing. Sometimes they say the mu'tamad is what Zufar, the student of Imam, not the first student, Abu Yusuf, not the second one, Muhammad ibn Hassan, but the third one, Zufar, because he's the one who came later and taught in the seat of Imam Abu Hanifa, for instance. Yes?
On behalf of somebody.
On behalf of somebody.
They don't want to ask you.
Why? You don't know. Didn't you do that also last time? Yes? Okay, fine, go ahead. Somebody that is, we have to investigate. Okay, what's the question?
The question is that this person is saying when they came to Malaysia, they realized that in Salah, people often don't stand shoulder to shoulder.
Yeah.
So she's asking for clarification. Is there some reason for this?
You're asking me? I don't know. You ask people, when you see people, they are, you're talking before Corona or after Corona? Because after Corona, everything changed.
Yeah, is it due to a difference in the madhab?
No. It's just that people, maybe their attitude, or sometimes some countries, they do have that. Like in Turkey, I noticed if you go and you pray and you're not wearing socks, then they sometimes, literally, they will not allow you to pray. Like it's almost for them obligatory to wear socks. Some people have, is it from the religion? No.
It's a cleaning function. I live in Turkey.
I also live in Turkey. Yes, can I help you?
I just finished my class.
Were you in the same class? لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. لا حول ولا. At least they come to say Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for, yeah. Yes, even 1 minute sitting is getting barakah. Thank you. Khair inshallah. Jazakumullah khaira. Thank you for, I hope you benefited, you learned. Yes. So what's happening? Everyone is talking on behalf of someone else. No, if she doesn't want to ask, there is, yes, go ahead. Raise your voice.
So what should you do if your household, like my parents, when my mom's Malay and my dad's from India, so there's tendency of Shafi, and sometimes when we're doing things at home, there's like, not conflict, but like, which one should we follow, or how do we go about that?
I don't know. This is what happens when you come late. Your obligation is to follow what you believe is closer to the truth, regardless of the name. This is Hanafi, this is Shafi'i, this is Maliki. Actually, sometimes this difference, again, it's not a difference of conflict. And this is good because most of what scholars differed about, they call it difference of اختلاف تنوع, variation, not difference of conflict. Like halal and haram. Sometimes, yes. Like Hanafi school of thought, where do you put your hands in prayer? Below the belly button. So whether you put it here or here, would it affect the validity of the prayer? No. So either way is fine. So is it better like to argue or to dispute about this? No. Didn't she ask a question you don't want me to answer? You're talking. Yeah, turn your face. Good. Okay. جزاكم الله خيرا. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.